Yes, part 2. So we'll recap a small bit. Okay, leave that one for the moment, okay? Just for those who missed the first part, okay? It only takes 2 slides to it, okay? To explain it, okay? So Christ-centered humanism is basically based on these kind of 5 words here, okay? Is that it is Christ who fully reveals the human being to himself, okay? Man to himself. It's in Christ we discover our full humanity because he's shared our humanity. He's united with us in the most intimate way. And that's what Christ-centered humanism is all about. It's centered on Christ, teaching us what it is to be human, or teaching us what we call the humanum, the human project. Okay, keep going, 1 or 2 slides more, Helen. Keep going, keep going. Okay, stop here, okay? So one of the things that Christ teaches us about the humanum, about the human project, is that we're made as man and woman, okay? We're both male and female, okay? There are 2 ways of being a human being. There are 2 infleshed, 2 incarnate, which means in-flesh ways of being a person, okay? A male person or a female person, okay? And that's teaching us how God made us, okay? It's bringing to God as the author of our humanity, okay? So I'm going to talk a small bit about that. Am I going to talk a small bit about, okay, just to mention that, okay? That's where we were. That's where we stopped, I think, the last time, okay? So keep going, okay? Okay, the other thing about our humanity is important to know is that within our beings, within our hearts, within our deepest desires, there's what's called a call to transcendence. Okay, to transcend means to go over a threshold. It means to cross over a boundary, to go outside of your zone. Okay, do you understand? And every human being has that, okay? A squirrel probably doesn't have that, okay? He stays within his tree, within his hunting ground, or lions, different predators, they stay within their hunting ground, they stay within their ecosystem. Okay, but in the human being, because we're spiritual as well as bodily, we have this kind of infinite desire within us. Okay, this infinite ache, within us. Okay, so what John Paul says about this, he says, in our bodies, we are a mere speck in the vast created universe, but by virtue of our souls, okay, our spiritual nature, we transcend the whole material universe. Okay? There's something that drives us on and on and on and on. Okay? He's only a human being like you can think and speak and share your thoughts in different languages with other human beings all over the world. And through that language express the beauty of art and poetry and music and literature and the theatre and so many other uniquely human accomplishments, okay? So human beings are always aspiring, they're always driving, they're always following, they're always chasing, they're always going beyond themselves, okay? And, the answer to that infinite quest, of course, ultimately is God, okay? That's when we find our highest desire, when that infinite desire is in some way satiated by an infinite object, if we can talk about God in that way, okay? So Wojtyła, in his early writing, he says, transcendence is as if another name for the person. Because like our second name is transcendence. Okay, we're always driving, we're always going beyond, we're always searching, we're always reaching out, okay? And that's important to know because if we try to limit ourselves with the finite, with just the material, as I was talking about earlier, we won't find ourselves. We actually won't become ourselves. Unless we go outside of ourselves, unless we go beyond ourselves, do we actually come back to ourselves? Okay? I don't discover myself so much in myself, but actually going beyond myself, I come back to myself and I discover who I am. Okay? Keep going. Now, because this is John Paul's 2 teaching, I'm going to kind of give you a sense of his understanding of the human project, his kind of way compared with, let's say, a secular postmodern humanism, okay? A godless, let's say, for the moment, humanism, okay? So secular postmodern humanism tends to be, in the first place, it tends to be dualistic. It tends to split the body and the soul. It tends to have a great divorce, okay? That I can be somehow accomplished, happy, satisfied, no matter what I do with my body, okay? We quake a bit with that as Christians, okay? We're not that split, okay? We're not that divorced, okay? It also tends to be utilitarian, which between human beings tends to treat human beings as a means to an end. Okay, it's what Pope Francis calls the disposable culture. Okay, we have lots of disposable goods and accessories in our life, but also human beings become disposable. Okay, so that's what that philosophy reduces human beings to be. It tends to be utilitarian as well. Okay, the sexual ethic tends to be permissive. It tends to be grounded in personal choice, in individual choice, and it tends to lack commitment. Okay, it's a kind of freedom that actually becomes license when it comes to sexual ethics, okay? In terms of the I, in terms of the individual, the I tends to be self-inventive. I can become anything. I can be anywhere. Okay, so, and it's not directed. Okay, it's not purpose-filled. Orientated in a certain way. Okay, so it can be very individualistic, and it lacks what we call a telos or a goal. Okay, it's not grounded in some goal, in some summit, in somewhere where I'm going. It's not a pilgrimage. It's not a journey. There's not an ending, okay? So it can be quite meaningless in that self-shaping as well. And in a sense, it can be quite destructive at times, okay? When you tap into it, when you explore it. Another thing of this kind of humanism, it tends to be materialist. It tends to focus on material accomplishment. It tends to be consumerist. Okay, it turns, it builds up the package in that level. Okay, and there's an impoverishment here of spiritual values. Okay, the spiritual side of our nature. Not to say that we're not material as we are. We have material needs, but it tends to impoverish or hide away or marginalize our spiritual being. Okay, our spiritual quest, our spiritual thirst as well. Okay, okay, so they're kind of signposts of that kind of humanism. When we come to John Paul Wojtyła, as he was before he became John Paul, different things, okay? The dignity of the person is very central in his teaching. That person has rights that are not alienated from him or her, okay? They can't be taken away from us. We have fundamental rights, okay? And that dignity cannot be taken away from us. It cannot, our value cannot be taken, our worth cannot be taken away, and it should not by any external force or by any other person or by state or whatever. It can't be taken from us, okay? So that's part of our dignity, and that dignity is universal. It belongs to each and every human being. Okay, it has to be respected. It has to be, we have to have a certain reverence. We have to be protective towards that dignity of each person, no matter how big or small, how young or old, pre-born, post-born, close to natural death. No, that dignity always has to be respected, and we have to work our life around that. Okay, that's his philosophy. Okay, he also believes in the integrity. Okay, that the person is a whole. Integer means whole. Okay, that we have a wholeness of body and soul. We're a unity. And it's only in that matrix, in that unity, in that composition of what we are, do we discover who we really are, or do we discover our true selves, okay? It's through our bodily nature that we find our spiritual nature truly encompassed, okay, in a sense. And they work together, okay? In terms of the sexual ethic, Wojtyła proposes self-mastery. He proposes that we can control, that we can begin to govern, we can have an apprenticeship in self-mastery, which is true freedom. So we can some way harness our sexual instincts and channel them in the right direction, okay? So he says self-mastery is integral to man's dignity as a person. Okay, that you become master of yourself, you become governor of yourself, you become ruler of yourself in some way, as best you can. And that's a lifetime's work. That's not done today, it's not done tomorrow, it continues through our lifetime, okay, in that sense. And for him, also in the sexual ethic and other areas of life as well, he believes that we don't live in an uncommitted way, that our freedom is not something indifferent, it's not something I just self-shape. My gift of self is unreserved and fulfilling, and it's given to a definite cause, or it's given to a definite person, it's given to God, it's given to my spouse, it's given to my vocation, but it's a gift of my entire self. It's very purposeful, and because it's unreserved, it's also paradoxically fulfilling. That when I give myself away, I find myself, I discover myself in my vocation, okay? And if that's marriage, it's in my marriage, okay? That's it. So it's different to the sexual ethic of the postmodern kind of humanism, let's say. And also Wojtyła's anthropology, his humanism is very communitarian. We're social animals, okay? We grow in community. We're not isolated, self-tracking individuals, okay? We flourish, we grow, we foster community, and that's how we become the best of ourselves, okay? By living socially, happily, peacefully, in a communitarian way with others, okay? That's how the I grows, okay? Man in the kind of most closest or most intimate form of that community, it's man and woman, okay? Say in marriage, in that intimate relationship, man is towards the second I, okay? It's towards the discovery of the second person, okay? The second project, okay, in a sense, okay? The second center of self-consciousness, of freedom, okay? The great mystery of man and woman, coming together and getting to know each other and, having a unique bond, okay? So it's communitarian. That then translates into better societies, better world, okay? Because unique bonds are founded which build up others, okay? And then lastly, it's more theological, but man is a Trinitarian sign that through the body, man and woman communicate another reality, completely beyond ourselves as a kind of a sacramental way, that it signifies something else. It signifies this great communion of persons beyond us, okay? Which is God himself, okay? Because we're built for communion, we're made for communion. Our bodies in themselves, in their own shape, in their own kind of orientation towards each other, they're Trinitarian in their sign language. They point to who God is. And they point to where we've come from, okay? We've come from a communion of love. We've come from an infinite communion of persons, an eternal, self-giving relationship. Okay, so our bodies are a sign of that. Is that okay? Does that make sense? Okay, so let's talk about the materialism then, okay, just a little. He talks about materialism in the West, okay, consumerism. He says, funnily enough, it agrees with Marxism in that it totally reduces man to the sphere of economic and the satisfaction of material needs. Okay, it's reductive. Okay, if you shop to live, if you're born to shop, okay, if you spend your time in the mall, if it is that dream house, dream car, all those things, okay, and nothing beyond that, that dream career, that social status, well, there's something missing. Something missing in the anthropology, okay? He says in Centesimus Annus, one of his social teachings, he says, it is not wrong to want to live better, okay? What is wrong is a style of life that is presumed to be better when it is directed towards having rather than being, okay? It's not what you possess, it's the kind of person you are. And the kind of person you are, in some way, conditions the kind of life you will live with others. Do you understand? So the greater depth in your personality, in your personal being, okay? It can be, if it stops at having, if it stops at kind of, you know, what do you call it, the property ladder, you know, it kind of, if you're just climbing the property ladder, you're missing something, okay? Okay, careful. And yet he's positive, he has a vision, he can see beyond that. He says, at the heart of the most secularized societies, a new generation of believers is arising. They speak in a credible way to the secularized man of our day about a light other than that of the glitter of visible things, of a joy other than that of earthly bliss. Okay, perhaps small Catholic communities, small Christian communities, believers in a secular world, believers in the secular city. Sometimes they can communicate something and can be a sign of something that the world is not giving, that the world is not communicating in sense. This is not a kind of a promotion of Pure in Heart, but I remember one time, before my time, Pure in Heart went out, they had a social night one time, I went out and they were in a pub somewhere, I don't know, and they didn't do that often, I don't think, but this guy came up to me, says, he was talking to them, he couldn't figure out, there was something about the group, he couldn't figure it out. And then they kind of let the cat out of the bag, you know, they said, we're actually a prayer group, you know. And he says, I knew there was something different about you. Okay, so funnily way, the Lord, the Holy Spirit, in some way was working on him, that he saw something in the body language, in the way they communicated, in something the way they were together, that he wasn't seen elsewhere. Okay, and that's what John Paul is talking about as well, okay? There's sometimes, you know, without our knowing it and behind our backs and when we're not even realize it, you know, we are communicating that Christ is present in the world, okay? Keep going. Okay, so this is about the man, the actor, okay? Okay, it's TOB kind of language, okay? Man is a subject because of his self-awareness and self-determination, but also on the basis of his own body. The structure of the body permits him to be the author of a truly human activity. In this activity, the body expresses the person, okay? Because we're structured bodily, because we can make concrete acts through our body, because we can communicate through our body, they express our individual being. Our bodies even express our individual uniqueness, you know. Even Siamese twins have different fingerprints, don't they? Yeah, you know, just that way, you know, just, you know, the uniqueness of each person, but it's communicated through a body. You're also a body, okay, who has this spiritual dynamism active in you as well, okay? And let's be said, the body can never be reduced to mere matter. A human body is never mere matter. It's never just a physicality. It is a spiritualized body. Just as man's spirit is so closely united to the body that he can be described as an embodied spirit. Okay? You know, and that has huge ramifications for our sexuality. Okay, our physical sense of touch, you know, how we are with people, and maybe not sexuality, but in so many ways, you know, that when you touch the body of someone, you're touching the person. We're sensitive to touch, okay? And how we communicate through our bodies, even how our faces communicate things, you know, it's a spiritual communication at the same time. You know, our tone, our eyes, our smile, our groan, our ache, you know, all those things, okay? All the time, this spiritualized body is walking around. It happens to be you, And your body is not just an attachment that I can treat recklessly or carelessly, you know. And in this sexual kind of commodification of our times, turning sex into a commodity, that's more or less what happens. The body becomes an attachment. Okay, it leads to great unhappiness. It leads to great distress. It leads to great lostness, because it's the body is being separated from who you are. Okay, and in Pure in Heart, and you know, with TOB and all, we're trying to get that back. Okay, we're talking about who are you. You know, your body cannot be treated this way. Your body cannot be disrespected in this way, because it's going to affect you spiritually. Okay, and that's constant in Catholic teaching as well. Okay, keep going. Okay, and this is what Pope John Paul wrote to President Clinton at the time. Okay, this is a letter that he wrote to President Clinton. He just said that the unreserved gift of self, mastery of one's instincts, the sense of responsibility, these are notions considered as belonging to another age. They're out of date, they're old-fashioned, no one ever talks about them anymore. Okay, whereas they're anchors for our life. Okay, they're pivots in how we live in. Okay, we cannot be ourselves without them. Okay, and then the body, which expresses femininity for masculinity and vice versa, masculinity for femininity, expresses it through the gift, true gift, as the fundamental characteristic of personal existence. Okay, so again, what were you talking about earlier on? It's through the gift of self that I discover the self. It is through my gift that I discover who I am. In giving myself away, in becoming other-centered, moving towards the other, that sometimes can be a community, in that I might give myself to the good of a community, or the good of my family, or to the good of my spouse. It's in that exiting, you know, coming out from myself, that I discover who I am. And it's true gift that I discover that as well, okay? He says young people should be helped to discover very early on the gift of self, an essential factor in reaching personal maturity. That's very different to what can be communicated to young people, that they are the center of the universe. You know, that... you know, it can be lost, okay, in their personal maturation. But Pope John Paul II is saying, no, it needs to be communicated early on, you know, in their existence. That living for others, going out of oneself, not being greedy, drawing everything into me as the center of attraction, is the secret of life. The secret of life is going out from myself, and, you know, and finding myself in others in some sense. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's kind of anti-selfishness. Okay, he said young people shouldn't be taught to be selfish. That's what he's saying. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, yeah. Don't turn your house into toy store. You know. Don't. Do you get that? Don't just buy your children toys, every toy they ever want, every dream they have. Okay, because you make them very selfish. Do you understand? And very materialistic. It's about having rather than being. You communicate to your children the higher values, the deeper values, the more mature values. And they can receive that from earlier on, you know. Beautiful stories of what children can do at times, you know, how they can be the ones who take the lead. They're the ones who do the best fundraising sometimes. Extraordinary fundraising. You hear it sometimes on the radio, in Spirit Radio at times, you know, what this child did and how they made all the money for someone else. You know, they can be our teachers at times, you know, because adults, we get a bit kind of, all these, you know, other things start to play themselves into us, okay? I think, keep going. I don't know if there's more. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Okay, so his last one, okay? And this is John Paul. This is his humanism, okay? He says, authentic love, which everyone's looking for, is not a vague sentiment or a blind passion. Now, most people think it is, okay? Okay. It is an inner attitude, okay? It's attitude, something to do with the will, something to do with the spirit, that involves the whole human being, okay? Not just part of you, not just your attractiveness or your sexuality or your emotions, okay? The whole human being, okay? It is looking at others not to use them, but to serve them. That's kind of a packed statement, okay? It starts off with authentic love, cuts out a few things: vague sentiment and blind passion, okay, which we're told is love, okay? It's not, okay? It can become part of love, okay? It's an inner attitude that involves the whole human being, that's looking at others, okay? The way you see others, to serve them, which means you're loving them in some way, and not using them, okay? You haven't capitulated to the utilitarian principle, okay? The principle of utility there, okay? He says genuine love, real love, is demanding, okay? It's not a soft puppet, okay? It's not something soft and easy and just kind of floating, okay? It's not that, okay? But its beauty lies precisely in the demands it makes. So love is demanding. Love asks a lot of us. Love asks us to be where we're meant to be for the other or for the others at that time. And that may be the most difficult place in the world to be. That's where you may not want to be. You may want to be somewhere else. So you may want to hide and run, go away. But that's where you need, that's what genuine love is. And it may be at the hospital bed. It may be with your sick spouse. It may be with your sick child. Okay, but that's where you need to be. Okay, in a sense, okay? He says, love in a word is a gift of self, okay? It's being there. Your body and your soul are committed, purposeful, there, at the bedside, in the house, at your job, in your work, doing what you need to be doing, even if it's just cutting the grass. Do you understand? It's funny, the secret, I think, is being where you're meant to be. You know, even if it's just cutting the grass. You know, not being the big absence of love in life is absenteeism. People are not where they're meant to be. They're not taking care of who they're meant to take care of. Do you understand? That's why there's so much brokenness, because the person who's meant to be there for someone is gone. And they're on the spiritual yacht somewhere, okay? They're away, okay? But the gift of self is actually being there. And being there consistently and sensitively and bravely and courageous. It's hard to be there. It's really hard to be there. Okay, I think that's enough. Okay. Any questions or any thoughts on that? It's a lot in a few minutes, but yeah.
Okay, so I have a question. So the situation we have, like, at the moment in our society is like, I'm just gonna paint it like in two ways. So, but the question is, sorry, I'm just trying to formulate this. The question is, how can we gain an apprenticeship in self-giving love? So, in our world, there's two scenarios. So one scenario is, we're very blessed, we live at home, and so everyone does everything for us. So, like, in the house or whatever.
Yeah.
And like as adults, you know, especially with the economy, it's very hard to like not live from home. But then when you do live away from home, when you have your own place, you tend to you have the other extreme of always thinking just about yourself, being able to do everything that you want to do, being able to buy things that you want to buy and go out and have your food and so on and so forth. So there's like these two extremes that the world kind of has.
Yeah.
How do we cultivate, you know, how can we then cultivate in our society this true self-giving love that we'd be able to give that to our future spouse?
Yeah, true self-giving love is a bit of a shock if you've lived a bachelor lifestyle. Do you understand? It's not that we at a certain time we're not emancipated from home, okay? But it doesn't mean that once we move out into our new job, our new profession, we've finished college, whatever, and we're living in our apartment. It doesn't mean that our character shaping has started there. Okay? It doesn't mean it just starts in the apartment or the flat, okay? It's meant to have started a long time beforehand, okay? That the kind of person you are, the kind of character you have, the kind of gifts that you have are already being formed in your family, okay? And it's kind of, your family know you better than other people, okay? You can fool your friends in Dublin, okay? in a sense, or you can be nice and sweet, but you know, I find that my family still know me better a lot than other people, you know? And but it doesn't just start when you're emancipated. It starts beforehand, okay? And if you're selfish in your family, you're going to be selfish when you move into an apartment, when you've got money to buy things for yourself, okay? I think a part of it is becoming conscious of the kind of person you're becoming self-aware, okay? Having a balanced lifestyle, that's going to have friendships, and some of those friendships may deepen, others may not, you know? I mean, if you're discerning marriage, you know, it may be time you start dating someone, you know, and then you have to make sacrifices in the relationship. You have to give up your weekends, or you have to give up your own free timetable, you know, to meet the other person, to encounter the other person. Okay, and that can be a toll, and it can be kind of that can be a learning curve as well. It can be an apprenticeship, you know, like we don't learn self-giving overnight. Do you understand? We don't learn selflessness overnight. People like Wojtyła too, yeah, but also people, the great martyrs like Kolbe, they didn't learn it overnight. You see, there's a whole school of formation. Their whole background is that. It's been building up for years, and when they become saints and we see them as martyrs, we say, oh, look at what they became. But it took years, you know, and it's the little choices. It's the everyday things. It's the human formation. Your courtesy. I'm just reading Hilaire Belloc there recently. Says that the grace of God is in courtesy. It's kind of nice, you know. Your manners, your respect, your formation there. That's going to make it for you later on. That's what you need to be working on now, you know. Not your pay rise, you know. Okay. I don't have an answer. That's to me, but that's part of it. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else?
I think that was a really good point you made about when you said, you know, like the secular world kind of it assigns value to you based on what you have,
Yeah.
not what you are.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of things kind of we don't even think, we kind of wouldn't even think of them as something that we have, you know, because we sometimes, you know, we define ourselves based on things we have. It's kind of so ingrained to say, you know, just for example, like, you know, I'm a doctor, but
Yeah.
like it's you know, it's still something you have, you know. But it's almost like kind of we assign, you know, I am a, but we kind of forget that there's, you know, God has assigned us our identity, you know, and it's not in what we have, it's in like Him, the very fact that He created us. You know? So I think almost a lot of kind of, you know, our material kind of possessions, you know, they can easily kind of infiltrate into kind of like us defining.
Yeah.
That like, you know, we define ourselves by what we have, even
Yeah.
like without realizing.
Yeah.
You know, so I think that's definitely a good point. It's the secular world is kind of all about what you have. Like, yeah, do you have like, you know, a nice car, a nice house? Like, how many likes do you have on social media? You know, it's all kind of like quantities and numbers.
Yeah.
So it's just to kind of realize the difference, you know, between like, you know who you are and, you know, what you have.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah. Anyone else? Any thoughts or comments or anything burning? No. Is it realistic? Would you find that attractive, what John Paul is saying? Yeah. And is it livable? Yeah. Is it true about the other side, about the secular human? Is that true?
Yes.
Does that make sense? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, they do separate the body.
Yeah.
Like, I keep going on about this, like the new SPHE program.
Yeah.
It's only just about the body. It's totally taking out the emotional, the psychological effects.
Yeah.
of just even just the emotions of like meeting somebody, getting to know somebody, dating, you know, good characteristics, bad characteristics. It's totally avoiding that. It's just focusing on the acts.
Yeah.
What are the different acts you can do?
Yeah.
So it's totally separating the person's body
Okay. Yeah.
from the whole person.
Yeah. 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 And from self-giving as well.
And from self-giving.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. 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 Especially he's giving us a language to talk about the humanum, about what it is to be a human person. And this is what we aspire to, you know. But it's a different language that's been communicated, perhaps in contemporary culture, you know. And we can fall into those traps very easily, I think, as well, you know. Okay, it's getting pretty late, so we'll leave it there. And is that okay?